So as I got on the plane to go to Tibet, I'd been given a book, or asked to read a book by Niranjan, my soul brother. And the book's title was Where Do We Come From? And the book is written by a Russian scientist who is also a eye surgeon. And one of the things that he was fascinated with as he continued to do surgeries all over the world, he found that the cornea of the human eye, no matter what the sex, no matter what the ethnicity, no matter what the age, size, whatever, was exactly the same. It's the only part of the human anatomy that is the same in all humans. So he started to explore the idea of the eyes and going deeper. And he went in and he found that he could trace scientifically that the origin of the eye, the human eye, came and originated with the Tibetan people. And that everything came out of that. And then what was really fascinating is when he went over to Tibet, when he was in Kathmandu, when he was in all these various places, he went to the temples, and what did he see? He saw Tibetan eyes. And what he came to the understanding was, your eyes tell it all. Your eyes tell everything. And so I looked at this and I started to do some research on it and said, well, okay, he said that. What does science say about that? Because my son is always telling me, Dad, you got to look at science. So I did this. The eyes are really the gateway to the soul, according to scientists. The patterns in our iris can give an indication whether we are warm, trusting, neurotic, impulsive. And they've done research on this, and they found that the patterns in your eyes can dictate and tell someone where they are in any one moment. And I bet you've experienced that. You look into someone's eyes and you'll know exactly where they are in that moment. I had that opportunity with a beautiful woman who came into service, or came in before service day. I looked into her eyes and I told her something. And it was right. You just have to be aware that when you're looking into someone's eye, here's the thing, do we really look into people's eyes? I'll bet you 99% of your conversations are conversations where you're not looking into a person's eye at all. You're just talking. You're not even listening. You're just talking. And yet the eyes are the gateway to the soul. The eyes are the connection. Scientist goes on and says, researchers argue that the eye structure and the personality could be linked because the genes responsible for the development of the iris are also responsible for shaping part of the frontal lobe of the brain, which influences our personality. So, anyone in here ever have a life partner? And you looked into their eyes and they told you don't say that, and you said it anyway, and you got the wrath come on upon you because you didn't want to look. How many of you have never looked into the eyes? You know, this is the big slide for today. And I'm going to share this. I'm going to go way out there on this because I didn't understand either. Why are these eyes everywhere on sacred temples that are thousands of years old? And yet they're not human eyes. There are no eyes like this in the human race today. There's no nose like this in the human race today. But here's the thing on what I want to focus on. You see the dot. You see the third eye. That's where I want to focus today. Because when we're looking through the two eyes, we're seeing the yin and the yang of life. We're seeing the contrast, we're seeing the negative, we're seeing the positive, we're seeing the duality of life. But the third eye is not really an eye, it's a point of consciousness that exists right here And then if you go into the side of the skull this way, it's actually in the center of the brain right there. It's that point within the brain that is the point that sees all of life in balance. So what is it seeing? The third eye is that which sees life as the infinite or as God sees life. But we're stuck into these eyes, so we see the crap. And we see the joy, and then we get caught up in this idea that I must go and have a life that is all good. There were people that I talked with that when they went on the journey to Mount Kairos, they expected all good to happen. I want you to know they were gravely disappointed. I did not expect all good to happen. And let me tell you, I got what I expected. Because in order to have a greater experience, which was the intent, an experience of oneness, experience of the divine, an experience of a higher elevation of consciousness, you had to also experience the opposite. And the question was, when you experience the opposite, did you get down into the opposite, or did you just observe the opposite? You see, that's where spiritual maturity comes in. Spiritual maturity comes in when the really crap is happening. Can you not get in it and swim in it, but rather observe that it's there, accept it, honor it, but don't waddle in it. Don't get your feet all full of it. Most of the time, we get our feet all full of it. We're constantly washing our feet. That's the symbolism in the Bible. When they do washing of the feet, it's a symbolic thing to wash away all the nonsense that we've accepted into our lives. Why the feet? Because the feet are what we plant into Mother Earth. They're what ground us. We don't take enough time grounding ourselves into the earth, into the nature. You see, nature is what we are. We're a part of nature. And we've gotten to the point where we think of ourselves as separate from nature. That's the shame. Because while I was there, I saw beauty beyond beauty that I could ever imagine, and I saw pollution that was the most horrific stuff I've ever felt. To the point where in Kathmandu, you immediately started to cough. Immediately, the pollution was just putrid. The human race has forgotten its roots. I don't care about global warming or non-global warming, but you know, we live on a planet. Why wouldn't we honor it, and why wouldn't we take care of it? Why would we allow this stuff to happen? I'm telling you something right here, right now, that if we don't raise our voices in support of a better life, we're never going to have it. It's not about being quiet all the time. It's about speaking up for what you know is right. And I think that's where we are at Agape right now. First off, we're speaking out what's right for us. We're speaking out for how do we claim our power. But it's more than just us. You see, remember, it's not just I, it's we. So we've got to speak our power out into the world for everything. You know, one of the things, we're a part of the Centers for Spiritual Living. And one of the things the Centers for Spiritual Living talks about, we're about creating a world that works for everyone. Isn't that when you really embrace the idea of love that we're really talking about? Embracing a world that not just works for me, that's narcissistic. That's self-centered. Why wouldn't we embrace a world that works for everyone? Is it not possible? Do you think if there's an infinite power and presence that created everything, that it could make it possible, but it's not going to make it possible unless we, as it, collectively come together to make it so? You see, the power's in us. We've forgotten that. We say it's in the other guy, it's in the government, it's in business, it's in the minister. No, the power's in all of us collectively, seeing life through the eyes of the divine. You see, these two eyes cause us to see ourselves as separate. And that's when we're alone. How hard is it for us to be alone? I can remember 1969. I was at Oakland University. I was in my dorm room. Everyone had gone home for the weekend. I hadn't planned ahead. I was there on campus, I thought, by myself. And so my roommate got this new record by the Bee Gees. Of all things, the Bee Gees. And I put on the Bee Gees. Now, this is long before Saturday Night Fever, okay? This is, let's talk about loneliness. Let's talk about, and what did I do? I took myself down into a funk. Because I wasn't seeing eyes through this eye, I was seeing it as separate. And I know there's many of us in this room that see their lives as separate. And that's where the pain is. That's where the suffering is. You see, when we see life through the eyes of the divine, we become peaceful, we become joyful, we become abundant, we become healthy. Everything we desire becomes ours. Why? Because when we see life through the divine eyes, we are seeing it as God, and that's where all our power is. That's where the creative power within us awakens itself, and then we become conscious creators. But we cannot become conscious creators until we get into the oneness. The eyes tell it all. Yesterday, Matthew, my son, calls up on the phone and says, "Want that FaceTime with Claire?" We go, "Yeah." And what Matt had done, and I had forgotten all about this. My father was the epitome of an absent father. My father as a grandfather, I'd forgotten, he was pretty good. He was pretty good as a grandfather. And what Matthew remembered was, he remembered when he was like 6, 7 months old. So Stephen would have been like, what, 2.5 years old? My father built him a swing. You know, a swing, and he hung it on we had a lanai. We lived in Tampa at the time, and the lanai was enclosed, and there was a pool out there and everything. And he put the boys in the swing, and he would hold the swing back, and he'd go, 1 for the money, 2 for the show, 3 to get ready, and 4 to go, and he'd give a big push. And the boys would laugh hysterically. I'd forgotten it. Matthew last week went out and bought a swing. And so he was there saying, "Dad, watch this. Mom, watch this." And put Claire's 5 months old. This little thing can't do anything. But she's in that swing, and Matt's going 1 for the, and then Gene and I were on FaceTime, so we're doing 1 for the money. So there's 3 of us yelling, and this little girl's eyes are just big, 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 and let it go, and all of a sudden, giggles galore. I forgot to look at my dad through the eyes of the divine. And in that moment, I realized he passed on something of joy that was in him in the most simple of ways. And I share that with you because so many times we think we have to be complex in order to have joy. It's simply sitting with someone. So all you people who didn't come to meditation on Wednesday, Elaine Torres wants to thank you.
I had a one-on-one amazing meditation experience.
So I'll just say this so that the camera can hear it all. Elaine invited me to dinner. We had dinner. We went, and no one was there, so we meditated. And then we pulled up pillows. We sat in pillows facing each other, and we did the most unique one-on-one prayer. It was as close to tantric sex as you get. We both had a cigarette when we were done, and we had instantaneous demonstrations in our lives. But I share that with you because people say to me, "How big do you want Agape to be?" I don't care how big Agape is. I care that Agape goes deep. I care that the people that come to this center embrace a teaching and their lives are changed and they become a living example for the people in the world. That's what life is about. It's about that deep connection that we feel and is multiplied. If I have this connection with Angelo, it multiplies exponentially. If I build it with Sarah, exponentially more. If I build it with Wendy, exponentially more. So when the 100 and some of us come together and we exponentially come into that consciousness, we affect millions of lives. Do you hear that? Because we have shifted and changed our energetic dynamics as an individual and as a collective, and that moves out into the world. We become the light. And the light is God. And the light casts aside the darkness, and the darkness can no longer exist. You see, you don't have to go fight against something to change it. You just have to be the light in the moment. And the light is not always serious. The light is fun. The light is joyful. The light is light. L-I-T-E. It's light. It's not heavy. Spirituality, so many times we make it so it's heavy. It weighs on us. I remember that as a Catholic, how heavy it felt to me. Spirituality is not heavy. God has no worries. When you're one with God, you've got no worries. You can't wait to giggle. You can't wait to dance. You can't wait to sing. That's why we picked the song Pride and Joy before the talk. Did that song not move your butt? It certainly moved Stacy's. Charles had to hold on to the tripod because the camera was going to fall off from the vibration. You see, that's what life is about. It's about when you're on your deathbed, you're not going to care about all the wisdom you've ever learned. When you're on your deathbed, the only thing's going to matter is, what did I experience? Did I taste love at the most incredible levels? Was I able to express love here, there, and yonder? Did I express love with just about everybody I met? Those are the questions that are going to have meaning in your life. That's why you're here. You're here to be agape. You're here to be the agape light in the world, because that light is God's light. And that is the greatest gift you can give yourself and the entire cosmos and God itself. Remember that always. You are the light. Let's pray. I want to thank you for joining us today. I'm so grateful that you took your time to watch or listen to this message. If you found this message beneficial, I would ask that you go to our website, agapecsl.com. Once there, click on the donate button and experience the joy of conscious and purposeful giving. Or if you would like, text your gift by simply dialing 972-532-6976. It is through your gifts that we are able to bring this message to you in the world. I would ask that if you like this message, to please subscribe to my YouTube channel under my name, Lee Wolak. Again, I want to thank you for joining me in the Agape community as we learn how to better self-love through conscious living.